Before you do that, I want to say something.
Yeah, go for it.
I just wanted to say that you are going to raw dog this presentation the way God intended, but I didn't want you to have that in your recording.
So I am recording this. I think I'll leave that in, though, because it's very funny. And also, I don't know how to trim video on OBS. Anyway, hi, Professor. This is my presentation on the nonverbal communication in the film The Dance of the 41. I have 3 people watching here. If you're counting all of our pets, that is like 20 people. Anyway. So The Dance of the 41 is a film that was made in 2020, directed by David Pablos, and it's based off of a true story. In Mexico in 1901, police illegally raided a party and found that it was only attended by men and that most were in women's clothing. 41 arrests were made that night, but it was rumored that Ignacio del Torre, the president's son-in-law, was also in attendance but released from custody because he was the president's son-in-law. And the film is an imagined retelling of Ignacio's days leading up to that fateful evening. And right here we see a poster that was made during the time after the incident happened. So in this presentation, we are analyzing the nonverbal communication of the 3 main characters of this film. We have Ignacio del Torre, Amara Diaz, and Evaristo Rivas. So Ignacio is, as mentioned earlier, the son-in-law of the president of Mexico at the time. He is a closeted gay man, and the movie shows him going back and forth between interacting with other gay men and interacting with society as a straight man. Amara Diaz is his wife, or his beard, really. She is the president's daughter. And then Evaristo Rivas is another character who is, what is the word? Having an affair with Ignacio del Torre. Evaristo is the only character in this lineup who is completely fictionalized and not just, like, made up. Alright, so we will start with Ignacio del Torre. So with Ignacio, we see him act differently around different groups of people. In these pictures you see at the side here, the first one on the top being at his engagement party, and the second one being in his own home. In these scenarios, he is very stiff, he's very restrained, he maintains very steady eye contact, he doesn't smile at other people or touch them. He holds himself in a very composed manner and is always very stiff. Even with his wife, he doesn't let any emotions or feelings show in his body language, and he treats her like he treats his coworkers, like she's just someone he needs to impress and move on with his day. And I believe that this body language is intentional, but it also is used to convey power and status and to establish himself as the most powerful one in the room. On the other hand, when Ignacio is with those he is comfortable with, he changes completely. We see several scenes with the secret, gay society that he is in. We see scenes with him, with his lover, Evaristo. His posture loosens, he hugs his friends, he makes jokes, and he smiles, and he laughs. We never see him do that with anyone else in the movie. It's as though he is wearing a mask with those other people, and then with these people, it just falls off completely. And this body language seems unintentional, as opposed to the other body language. This feels like the real Ignacio under all the layers of lies and cover-ups. And especially with Evaristo, his lover, he acts more affectionate with him than he ever does with Amada. He lets his eyes wander. For example, earlier I talked about the steady eye contact that Ignacio has with everyone around him. Even with his wife, he just looks straight into her eyes. But with Evaristo, he looks him up and down. He studies him. He takes him in. And that is nothing he does with anything else. Then we have Amara Diaz, who is the wife. At the beginning of the movie, her body language suggests that she could not be happier. She is smiling, she looks forward to her future, and she wants to touch Ignacio. She wants to be touched. And she's not very subtle about it. There are scenes where they are in, the middle of their house, and she just starts taking off her clothes, or she, is immediately all right, we are doing this right now. But as things like change between them, as she becomes more suspicious, her body language changes completely. So when confronting Ignacio and speaking with him, Amata assumes what are called power poses with him, trying to be intimidating and mirror him. So power poses are what we do, are poses we do. We want to convey power. We want to act powerful. It's like sitting up straight. It's taking up space in a room. It is acting confident. And she, in using these power poses, she's attempting to get him to confess to having an affair, getting him to stay in the house with her instead of going out at night, and to start a family with her. It's a very strong contrast to what she was doing before, which was, acting like his wife. And when this doesn't work, Amata turns to tactics to instead shock him and scare him into submission. There's a scene where she climbs into a tree and fires a gun at him. She physically fights him with a vase. There is a scene that has very good body language, in my opinion, where he is checking the mail, and she demands to read the letters that he has. She snatches them from his hand and reads them, and when he asks to give them back, she holds them out to him, but then drops them on the floor before he can reach for them. It's a very clear message of, I don't respect you, and I don't trust you. And then at one point, she fills the house with baby goats. This is a message that is trying to convey that she wants a family, and she's going to get it at any cost, even though that means filling the house with baby goats. And she never says the words, I don't trust you, I don't like your lifestyle. But the actions are so strong that the message is there regardless. And lastly, we have Evaristo. And we only really see him interact with Ignacio in the film. We don't really see him interact with anyone else. However, we do see a lot of nonverbal communication. He is in scenes with Ignacio both in public and in private. The top picture being in public and the bottom being in private. And he still shows affection any way that he can. In public, it's very subtle. For example, he will touch their hands together in a bar. He will, stare at him very meaningfully, and he will, nod his head or wink in a certain way. An outsider who isn't very invested wouldn't be able to see those things, but to Ignacio, he's communicating, hey, I'm gay, It's not an obvious declaration of it, but it still is meaningful and it still communicates that. And in private, it's much more obvious how he feels about Ignacio. He treats him very tenderly and touches him very gently and kisses him and shows him all of this affection. And through this touch, he shows him that he cares about him. And he's not just another, hookup or just, a man to mess around with. He genuinely loves and cares about Ignacio. And you can see this through the way he touches him. Much like Ignacio, Evaristo also has a mask that he puts on. Even though we don't see it as often, it is still very much there. For example, there is a scene in the movie where Ignacio invites Evaristo to his secret society. And that is the scene we see at the bottom here, where he is shirtless and blindfolded. There is a very intimidating initiation into the society, and he is very stiff and very tense the whole time. But as the scene progresses, he realizes this is a safe place, and he can joke, and he can laugh, and the people will laugh with him and not at him. And he becomes visibly more relaxed. There's a scene where his shoulders actually drop physically. So Floyd, what does it all mean? You're telling me all this information. What is the conclusion? What is happening here? And I will tell you. The conclusions that I've drawn from this are that nonverbal cues can tell us more than dialogue can at times. In the movie, it is very rarely, there are very rare conversations between these characters. They don't often, profess love to each other or say, I'm so angry at you, or I love you, or, I'm upset with you, things like that. It's mostly shown through actions how they feel about each other. Another thing is that determining whether body language is intentional or unintentional can tell you a lot about a person's true nature. With Ignacio, for example, when he is in public, when he is very stiff and composed and confident, if you view that as unintentional body language, you can view Ignacio as a very confident, very put-together person. Unintentional, you can view it as he's very kind of confident and whatnot. if it is intentional, you can kind of draw the conclusion that it's a mask and is hiding his true self. And that intentional body language can often hide our vulnerabilities, and again, it can be used as a mask. Questions, comments, concerns, and also compliments may be taken at this time.
This was super, super cool, and I very much want to see this movie.
Mm-hmm. You should.
Yeah. I'm just trying to think, like, I mean, I don't think I necessarily have any specific questions.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it'd be... So, Amada and, the one with the mustache, the lover.
Evaristo.
Yeah, they never meet, do they?
They do meet, actually. They do meet.
Okay. Body language there? Do you have any, like, memory? I know you didn't write any about that specifically.
I did not, because it was already long enough. But in that scene, Amada has, like, the power poses I mentioned earlier. She's very much, like, the dominant one in charge. So she invites Evaristo to the house, and Ignacio walks in and is like, oh my god, my lover and my wife are both here. Oh shit. Like, he's, like, freaking out. And Evaristo is still, like, trying to remain very composed, very polite. He's not aggressive at all. He's kind of submitting to Amada's, like, very dominant posture.
I need to get a good grade in lover's wife, something that is both normal to want and impossible to achieve.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, and Ignacio in that scene is very, like, he also has that mask on. He's very scared, but he's not going to let Evaristo or his wife see it. He's going to, like, pretend like everything is fine, basically.
Yeah. It's like, actually, no, this is completely chill.
Yeah, exactly.
Why would it not be? Everything is completely fine.
Exactly. Anything else? There doesn't have to be anything else.
I just want to tell you did a really good job.
Thank you.
I've never seen this movie. I don't know what's going on. But I sat here the entire time and I almost brought up the notebook, still, like, taking notes because I was so interested in what you were saying. And you said this so well that I had to take notes. I was actually, like, looking at my notes.
Oh my god.
Like, okay, this is what happened during this. You did an absolutely incredible job. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. In conclusion, watch the movie. It's very good. Thank you for watching. Give me a good grade, please, and thank you. Okay, bye.